Okay. Oh,
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another CHWE interview here. Today we have Anthony Nayagan, and he is a wonderful mystic and an author, and I'm going to read his bio here. And then we're going to open up the floor to him and find out who he is and what he's all about. So thank you for joining us. Anthony Nayagan embodies resilience, having triumphed over significant life challenges. His journey is a powerful testament to the strength of faith and transformative potential of the human spirit. From a young age, Anthony sought spirituality beyond the confines of organized religion. In his 20s, he left the church to seek divine experiences in everyday life. Today, Anthony is recognized as a modern-day mystic, professing profound divine wisdom and mystical knowledge of various religious scriptures. In his forthcoming book, Ancient Wisdom and Modern Leadership, Insights for Timeless Innovation and Success, Anthony emphasizes that spiritual identity is a fundamental aspect of creation, surpassing all other aspects. He argues that each individual's spiritual needs and paths are unique, shaped by their personal calling and inherent nature. Anthony aims to mentor and coach thought leaders, creators, and innovators, empowering them to achieve their highest potential through spiritual enlightenment. Thank you for being here.
oh,
So yeah,
thank you.
would you like to add anything to that?
If you have any questions, I would be happy to. Yeah.
Let's open that up to Jonathan. He's got that covered for us.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I've got a whole ton of questions, but I think what would be really great is if you could just introduce yourself beyond that, Anthony, and tell us a little bit about yourself. And I think one of the things the audience is always really fascinated is how you got on this path. What happened in your life that you got on this path, and how did you become such an amazing being and so wise and so able? What inspired you to write your book? And just a little bit about you for the audience.
Well, all my life, I had a sort of a grace, I would say, or a knack to figure out what is absurd in pretty much everything that is organized. Whether it's my education, whether it is the jobs I did, whether it's my relationships, it really didn't matter. You see, I could almost immediately see what is wrong about it, what is absurd about it, but the only thing is I did not know what to do about it or how to go about solving it. See, that part of it, whatever ideas that I come up with, it was something that was rigid, short-sighted. It did not have something that is long-lasting, that is something everlasting. You see, that part is missing in whatever solutions I could come up with. Okay? So that is one of the reasons why I always escaped what is normalcy in life and in search of mystiques around the world. Okay? Because when I go in front of a mystique, I kind of sense a certain tranquility. I did not see what was absurd in where I was or in what I'm encountering. It was something that is very peaceful, very tranquil, and I was very comfortable there. You see, why that was happening to me, I didn't know. I did not have the maturity to figure that out. But I was very happy to be in their presence. Whether they were influencing me? Yes, they were influencing me. Whether they were teaching me? Yes, they were teaching me. But was I learning anything from them? That was beyond my awareness. I was learning and I was getting transformed. And all of those things were happening to me. But that was not in the framework of my knowledge base. That is pretty much a sort of a transcended experience without even my awareness present in it. See, that's how most of my life had been. Up until I came to the point to realize that the spirituality I was looking for is not in the hands of mystics. It is not in the hands of anything that is out there. Everything is within me.
Yeah.
Okay. So that prompted me to kind of go into a certain isolation, read the scriptures again, scriptures in all religions, and to figure out what exactly that path really meant. Then that journey is what really transformed everything in my life. And in that process, I came to realize even my journey is as unique as every mystic I met. Okay, it's not the same journey. And the whole idea of trying to come up with a one-size-fits-all answer to a spiritual journey is fundamentally flawed. I can provoke someone to think, I can inspire someone to, choose a certain direction. I can do all of that. But I cannot tell them, hey, this is what you need to follow. That I cannot. That comes from within. That comes from his own inspirations, own realizations, own understandings, because every path is different. See, every one of us have gone through life cycles of our own, which is not the same as everyone else. So we have been formatted. We have been formulated very differently than the one sitting next to us. See, so we are very unique people. And therefore, our spiritual journey is incredibly unique. See, that is one thing that we need to come to understand what it is. And to choose our journey as our own. I can inspire you, I can guide you, and I can give you some ideas. But more than that, it's yours to choose. It is yours to travel. See, another important thing that I found out in my whole journey, see, there are physical systems within us, from our mental system to physical system to every system we have in it. If they are not exercised, they are bound to suffer atrophy. In other words, it kind of pretty much flattens. Okay? So we need to, in other words, when we are going in a spiritual journey, we need to exercise all of them so that whatever that suffered, that flatness, will slowly emerge, will slowly build up. And that transformative power, we also have that within us, and it's called love.
Yes.
See, love has the power to transform anything and everything within us and around us. See, unfortunately, we as intellectual beings, we have a way of fragmenting everything, and we choose only one side of it. It's very Advaitic, for instance. and we build our systems and our intelligence, our perspectives, everything based on one side of the equation, and we ignore the other side of the equation. You see, or we sideline the other side of the equation. Well, let's get a little scientific about it. You see, all the matters, all the particles, and everything was created not by particles interacting with each other. It is not by way of causation made by particles. No, it is something called a quantum field that encapsulates every particle. That's what moves it around. That is the creative force, that we have. Not we, but every cell of our being has. Every cell of the universe that we are looking at. Every single one of them has that, that field, which is called quantum field in science. See, quantum field is nothing. Quantum field actually is consciousness. See, that is consciousness. In Christianity, we call that the breath of God that created the universe. The breath of God that gave us life and the spirit. You see, Jesus says very emphatically in I think it's in Gospel, the Word became life. See, when we look at Word became life, how does the Word becomes life? See, the Word here we are talking about is the power of God that becomes life. And that power of God is that breath of God that we are breathing every moment of our life. Because unless His breath, which in Hinduism we call prana, if that breath is absent in our life, we are going to fall apart. We are going to die. And the only thing that keeps us alive and in full of spirit is that breath. Invariably, Veda, which is the Hindu scriptures, it says that we were created by the sacrifice of love. See, God sacrificed His love to create us. That's Veda. See, so everything connects here. You see, the consciousness, love, sacrifice, and the prana and consciousness, everything is connected. And that is what is creating us. That is what is moving us. That is what is allowing us to survive and sustain in this world. You see, that's what is going on. And here we are ignoring the consciousness part of it, and we are thriving only on the material part of it. That is where humanity is so chaotic. But believe me one thing, I agree with one thing Dr. Jonathan says, Jonathan Tuck, chaos is good. You see, because in realizing the chaos, we are ready to get transformed. Transformation comes in when we realize chaos. So don't shy away from chaos. I love chaos because miracles are about to happen in our life when we recognize and realize the chaos in our life.
Absolutely. And again, that's mathematical because order can only be derived from chaos.
Yeah.
Mathematically, so.
Mathematically, absolutely. And so is in real life, in spiritual life, real life, chaos is good as long as we appreciate, recognize, appreciate, and be joyful about the chaos. Then miracles are bound to happen. Transformations are bound to happen. Everything is ready for us. See, that is the miracle of a spiritual journey.
Anthony, I could listen to you all day long. I mainly because so much of what you say absolutely resonates with what I've come to establish as my core beliefs on life, the universe, God, and everything. one of the things you mention in your book is um, an ability to create things that are everlasting. I wonder if you could just expound upon that briefly.
Okay. Actually, this is something, it's an invitation by Jesus. Okay. In Vedas and in the Hindu scriptures and all of that, you see, there is, there are the mystics and the seculars. So seculars seek the mystics to get their advice, get their guidance, get their direction, get their insights, and they bring it back and implement. So the guru-disciple relationship between the mystics and the seculars, it's still in operation today in India. Okay. For instance, when you are looking at the traditional medicine, when you are looking at the Vedic philosophies, even the spiritual, the Indian spirituality, the Vedic cultures and all of that, the whole philosophy of it, even their music, their dance, their architecture, their temples and everything, all of them were inspired by mystics. Okay, so the guru-disciple relationship is still in existence, and it still is a strong force in India. See, that is one of the reasons why, there's a lot of things that we happen, that happening in India. It's very puzzling. I'll give you an example. See, in 1970, the first time I landed in India. See, I'm a Sri Lankan. I'm not an Indian. I'm a Sri Lankan. See, in 1970, when I went to India, that was the first time. And that country was so poor. It just melted my heart. I could not even see how the people survive in that country. It was so bad. Today you go to India, it's a whole different world. One of the fastest growing consumer economies in the world. Top 5. Okay. Another thing that fascinated me, you see, at the turn of this century, 21st century, the whole world was looking at a recession. And I was in India at that time. In India, there was not even a talk of the recession. Nobody was paying attention to what was going on around the world. Their economy was fine, the country was fine, it was progressing. Sure, people were not buying Indian stuff, you see, because they did not have the money to do it, but India was perfectly able to survive that recession. And there was no fluctuation, there was nothing economically going on for them to self-sustain themselves during the recession. The reason is this. The reason is, the relationship between the mystics and the seculars. See, the interesting thing about this, Jesus changed the whole paradigm. Whole paradigm, Jesus changed that. In other words, Jesus allowed that kind of a creative or the mystical powers to everybody. Okay? Because he says in one instance to Philip, I see what my Father is doing and that's what I do. When you see me, you are seeing my Father. Jesus said that emphatically. You see, that is that creative power within us. We see what God is doing. You see, again, I'm going to bring in the quantum mechanics in here. See, we are created in the image and likeness of God. You see. So, in other words, we are a separated particle in this universe of God. See, so the mechanical synchrony between what Father does and what we do must be the same. So when we transcend ourselves and begin to observe our soul, we see what the Father is doing. You see, and that observation could help us, with our innovations, with our creativity, with our policy making, with our leadership, all sorts of things it can. It will. Because what it is everything we do, it begins with divine origins. When it begins with the divine origins, it is beginning with something that is actually unmanifest. You see, so in Hinduism, we call that creation is what unmanifest transforms into a manifest. That's what creation is. You see, an unmanifest transforming into a manifest. You see, when an unmanifest transforms into a manifest, that will stand the test of time. That's
where I was going with it. So yeah. I was really kind of reminded me of maybe a Japanese culture where the business plan is not 5 years, it's 100 years.
Yeah.
Not the same, just similar in so much as when you create something from the heart, I believe you were saying, it's everlasting.
Yeah, it really is. It actually is deeper. It actually is from our soul. You see, when we are observing the soul, what we see there is the unmanifest evolving. See, so our source intelligence is not matter. It's fullness. You see, it's fullness evolving to something a matter. You see, that's what we are looking at. We are looking at consciousness at work. Consciousness at work of creating something. That is what we are observing in our soul. See, Bible says emphatically, that was Peter. Peter says emphatically, anything that has, what does it say? Anything that originates from flesh will perish. Anything that originates from imperishable will last forever, will remain imperishable. Okay, that is Bible. So what is imperishable? Imperishable is our consciousness.
Yes.
See, so when a consciousness, begins to create, when we observe the consciousness as it evolves into a creation, and then we use our mindfulness to synthesize what we observed and bring it into creation. You see, that is going to stand the test of time.
Yes.
That is according to the Bible. You see, so the everlasting creation is very biblical. Whereas in India, it is the relationship between mystics and the secular. So in my book and in my teachings, in my coachings and everything, what I do is the opposite. You can be that mystic and you can observe your consciousness. Because and when you observe the consciousness, go on.
But because you have everything within you, as you said.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. At what point in your life did you realize that you had everything within you? Was there a specific aha moment or a connection that you had, or is it just something you knew already, you just gradually became more conscious of?
See, when I was called to write my first book, it's called Supreme Realization. It's already out on Amazon. I wasn't prepared to write a book. I did not even understand why I was called to do that, because I had never written a book. I never even had that idea in me that one day in my life I'm going to write a book. You see? And the other thing is, I wasn't even sure my English was good enough to write that book. So I did not want to. But that calling was so persistent in me, I could not resist it. You see, at that time, the whole idea of consciousness and everything, it never sinked into me. I never figured it out what it was. Probably because I probably was of the mindset, maybe I'm not even supposed to figure it out. You see, so I kind of moved away from it, and I was existing in my own, within the narrow domain of something that I've created for myself. But I just could not escape it. There was one question that was persistent in me, and that was what Father in heaven said when he created human beings. The man and the woman could unite and become one body. Jesus repeated that. St. Paul repeated that in Ephesians. Look, I'm the man of the 70s. Okay? I've had relationships. I was married a couple of times. No matter how faithful I was to those words, I didn't become one body with them. See, so what was missing? You see, becoming that one body, it was so persistent in me. I had to ask, eventually I asked many people, scholars, theologians, and all of them, and they gave me answers, of course, but they were not giving me the answer I was looking for. I wasn't getting enlightened by their answers. See, that enlightenment was missing. So finally, I came across the world of Jesus, said, Holy Spirit is going to teach you everything. So I just went to the Holy Spirit. I have this question, you better answer me. What is it? Okay, tell me what it is. I really have to know. And I kept on asking the question for about 2-3 months. Probably longer than that. Then one day I said, I was sitting in meditation and I was getting quite agitated, and I said, look, I need the answer. If you're going to ask me to write this book, I need the answer to my question. What is it? Unless you give me that answer, I'm not getting up. You see, then finally I heard the voice, you go to the university library and go to the science section, open the book. Okay? All right. I just went to the university library, which was next door to me, and I went to the science section, and there was one book when everything was, arranged with the spine looking at me. There was one book turned around with the cover looking at me. Okay? And that was written by Stephen Hawking.
Wow.
Okay. I took that book and started reading it. It literally was, I read it like it was children's storybook. And for all of that, I don't have a scientific background. I had no idea about quantum physics. Nothing. I knew nothing. But I was able to read it like it was a children's book because the Holy Spirit was teaching me all along. And I was only reading what I already knew. That's why.
Wow.
Okay, that is why. That is how it happened. That is when I come to realize Father in heaven and Jesus and St. Paul, they were not talking about bodies, but they were talking about consciousness.
Yeah.
You see, but that consciousness is absent in the book. But they were talking about consciousness. How a man's consciousness and a woman's consciousness could unite and become one and the same. Very powerful revelation. Very powerful revelation. See, so that is how the book got started. And my writing and my wow moment and everything.
Yeah.
That was the basis of it. You see that?
No, thank you, Anthony. That's absolutely fascinating. And I think we're probably coming to the end of this podcast and ready for questions. Kelly, do you have any questions? And also, Steve has joined us, Steve Webster. who's also an author of a book called Infinite Frequency. And I particularly invited him to come along because I thought he might be
Hello, Steve.
fascinated.
Well, yeah, go, if
Hi,
Steve
Anthony.
has anything to say, if Steve has anything to say or ask, leave I'm more of a sponge and during these interviews, I like to just take the information in and leave the questions to other people. So,
okay, yeah, sure. I've got a few.
Hi.
Anthony, I also totally believe that consciousness is linked to quantumness, if you like. That there are so many aspects in quantum that mimic consciousness, and I believe that the masters, such as Jesus, Buddha, etc., they were able to see through into the quantumness of it and be able to understand it. What in your mind, though, what I struggle with is, sorry, I've got a problem with the laptop. Here's God, and then here's us. Now, Jesus says in John 10:34, we are gods. What is the relationship or priority or secularness of there's God and there's us in terms of our consciousness? Is our consciousness God?
Is our consciousness God? Absolutely it is. You see, because when he created us, he breathed into our nostrils life and the spirit. Spirit is the wisdom part. Life is the part where word became matter. See, word became life. You see that? And he gave it to us without any entropy whatsoever. What is that life? Word became life is literally translated as Jesus. See, so the life and the spirit that we are breathing within us is the fullness of God's consciousness without any entropy whatsoever. You see,
do we create the entropy?
Do we? No, God is breathing into our nostrils, so there is no entropy there.
But there is entropy in the universe. Where does it come from?
The universe was created by the breath of God also. But the breath left him and created the universe. When he created us, he came close to us, took us into his, in so close, and he gave us the breath and the life, the spirit and the life. So we are actually is completely and totally endowed with the divine consciousness.
Yeah.
See, when Jesus says, I abide in you, he literally says, I abide in you. John, what is it, 15:4? I'm not sure. But in John, he says, I abide in you. And he asks us to abide in him. So that abidance is what he is already as consciousness within us. And he is asking us to abide in that consciousness, not in the physical form of Jesus, as the church wants us to believe. So the church wants us, see, it's not just the church, any religion, it wants us to believe in a God that's external. So for them, religiosity is something external. We are transcending ourselves and going external. You see, that's what religion is. Spirituality is the opposite. Spirituality is what takes us inside. We become one with that consciousness. That is what spirituality is. So everything is happening within us. Everything, literally everything is happening within us. So the whole creativity, whole innovation, and the entire wisdom and whatever we need, to be the perfect representative of God is within us. It is not outside of us.
Yeah, no, I agree. Everything's inside of us. And I believe that the thou shalt not worship false idols is basically saying that. Don't follow this guru. Don't follow this master. Don't follow Jesus. Jesus was trying to explain that. He says, go inside you, because that's where God is.
Yeah, I mean, he says, what is it? The meeting with Samaritan woman, what did he say? See, you don't have to come to this well to worship. You don't have to go to Jerusalem to worship. See, truly I tell you, the time is coming. You will worship the Father in spirit, and the truth as revealed by the Spirit. So the truth and the Spirit is something that abides in you, not outside.
Yeah.
This is exactly what Jesus said.
Yeah.
He says, when it comes to spirituality, religion is irrelevant.
But both heaven and hell reside within you, and
everything is within it.
Yeah, it's for you to find the heaven in yourself, and it fits in with that whole Buddhism mantra, doesn't it? That if you want to change the world, change yourself, because the world is the way you and I are seeing it.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
I think that what we've discussed equally alludes to the scientific theory that everything in the universe is connected.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because it is connected by consciousness.
Absolutely.
Whether it's universal consciousness or self-consciousness, together it is divine consciousness.
Which is why embracing a lifestyle of love and unconditional love
Absolutely.
is not just good for yourself, but good for absolutely everything.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to love, gosh, in our ignorance, we have fragmented love also. You see, we call one is unconditional love, the other one is conditional love, and the other one is, love between, partners, and the other one is, love between children and father or parents. And it just goes on and on and on. It's all fragmented definitions, but it is not. It is one incredibly abstract, divine emotion. You cannot fragment it. You see, that is the emotion that transforms everything, not the fragmented part of it. See, so we need to kind of move away from a fragmented love and come one with the divine love that we are. When we become one with the divine love that we are, then our consciousness itself is going to transform. And the universe around us is also going to get transformed. See, because love is that powerful. Divine love is that powerful and that transforming. See?
Yes.
Yeah, it's incredible. It is incredible. Oh, praise God.
Mm-hmm. Indeed it is. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared with us today. And thank you, Steve, for joining us too. It's good to see you again.
Interesting.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, good to see you again.
Lovely to meet you.
I love your perspective. Thank you. And it's good meeting Steve, by the way. It's the first time I'm meeting.
Yeah, I wanted to introduce you guys because when I was talking to you, Anthony, I immediately thought of Steve, and I thought how you guys would have a really good conversation. Just out of interest, Anthony, Steve has just recovered from stage 4 cancer, and I want to comment on his new hairstyle because previously having hair, so that's very cool, Steve.
It's not really a hairstyle. It's just that's the way it's growing. This is God. This is not me.
Where do you live, Steve?
I'm in Lincoln in the UK. Where are you?
Oh, I'm in Florida.
Okay.
And hopefully I will be in UK soon before the end of the year, and I would love to meet you.
If you do, we can swap details through John. I'd love to meet you.
Yeah. Great.
That's
That'll
great.
be awesome.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here, and then we can carry on for a few minutes afterwards. So thanks again for having
thank you, Steve.
Come on the show, and thank you, Steve. Thank you, John. I appreciate you for making the connection here, and it's good to see you, and we'll stay in touch. And take care.
Bye, guys.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks Anthony, and thanks Steve, and thanks Kelly. Sorry,
sure. Thank you.
took over a bit, but thank you.